And I guess we are live. Welcome to Aussies taking over the NBA on Twitch.
We've given YouTube the flick for live streaming.
Yeah, just we'll see how it goes. We'll just go out on Twitch for the time being. So anyone who was on our YouTube, come right over, or the guys listening on Podcast Addict and iTunes, pardon me, and all that. Make sure if you want to see us live, come and see us on Twitch. We'll get a bit of a schedule going, sort all that stuff out. So this is going to be an interesting show. We've got a playoffs preview of the only Aussie left in the bubble, which is Joe Ingles.
That's it, mate. The last one standing.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk Philly in honor of Ben Simmons. You know, if Philly do anything great, then he gets a ring. So why not talk about him in honor of what's going to happen? We know you're a Philly fan, so you will enjoy having a chat about what Philly's been up to in the bubble. But always like, share, and subscribe on SoundCloud, on iTunes, on Podcast Addict. We're putting the episodes up on YouTube after, but we are live for the first time on Twitch. Come by, say g'day, leave us some chat, tell us what you think of the Aussies this season so far. We've had a bit of a disrupted season with the bubble, bringing the NBA back from the brink of COVID oblivion. Yeah, so the first thing I think we're going to have a chat about is the extended little playoff game that we had yesterday.
Yeah, the between 8th and 9th in the West. It was kind of a little bit bittersweet because Memphis were pretty rubbish throughout the whole bubble experience, and the Suns went 8-0 and they ended up on the same points, and obviously there was some percentage differences. So I think that probably Memphis deserved to get the chuck, and it would have been good to see the Suns play the Trailblazers in that playoff. But I suppose, 1v8 Lakers. Lakers have probably got the hardest one to pick first up, I think. The momentums with the Trailblazers, Lillard's going off.
You don't think they're just going to dismantle the Blazers and just out of here?
Yeah, I think, unless if Davis has a good series, yes, but if Davis doesn't have a good series, I don't think they will. I think it'll be a little bit closer than we think, probably in 6. I'd say the Lakers are going to take it in 6. But again, it's one of those things down the stretch, you just never know. They've got some clutch performers on both sides. And, Lillard's pulling up from the bloody logo every second attempt now.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was what I said to you the other night. It must be like what people who used to watch the Warriors felt like, when I was just watching. It's just, this is awesome, watching him do this. I get these, it's a reactionary pang of just like, no, this is ridiculous. But then I just go, man, this must have been what people were like when Curry was just pulling up from everywhere, hitting shots from everywhere. So it's good to see him. Like, look, the little run in the bubble. Like, you're right, Phoenix should have played Portland. As much as Memphis, all right, they made their statement. They could have almost probably finished in that 8th spot. I think if the season wasn't disrupted, maybe it's a little bit different. The Portland team had a few players come back. Nurkic, their roster got a little bit healthier. Although CJ playing with a fractured back.
Really?
Yeah, he's got a fracture in his back. That is nuts, man.
What a lunatic.
I know, just a lunatic, and still playing really well. But the one thing I didn't really like was, he's scoring over, I think it was Ja Morant. It's like, dude, it's a first season rookie. Like, let's settle down. You can't guard me. You can't guard me. And it's like, just chill out a bit. Yeah. And you're playing for the 8th seed. Like, just chill out. Yeah. But it was, they I think deserve to make that 8th spot. And as much as it was a great little, oh yeah, wow, this is great. At the same time, it's like, it's the 8th seed, man. Like, well, the NBA is really, really like thirsty for some hype off of this moment for them to just kind of limp into the 8th seed. The Grizzlies, were a bit sort of poor in the bubble. But yeah, Phoenix, I felt, got kind of dudded out of that last game. The way it all ended up.
Yeah, I think they got dudded. And look, it's made it more of a series. I think that's the good thing. I think that the Lakers would have taken the Grizzlies in 4. I think this will make it more of a series, get some more games in, make it a bit more profitable for the NBA. But, I think the right team's in the top 8 in the West. The West for me is the dark horse and the unknowns. I think the East is pretty much sewn up. First round sewn up. We kind of expect. I think the only one that's the unknown is really Philly and the Celtics. Philly and any other team, I would have said, Philly would be first round out, but they match up well against the Celtics for some reason. I just don't think the Celtics can control Embiid. And now with more shooters in the team, it may look a little bit better and a little bit more healthy than I think with Simmons in the team. And Simmons didn't look great coming into the bubble. I think obviously coming off a big injury, and then exiting with that knee, it's really given, I think, us to see what Philly's going to be like in the postseason without that lack of shooting down the stretch, or potentially the lack of ability to kind of work in the paint with Joel and get Horford on the floor at the same time, because you kind of want someone to be able to stretch the floor and shoot threes. But then again, then you don't get the defensive just ridiculousness that Simmons can bring down the stretch and win games off defensive plays, which I actually haven't seen any other player except Jimmy Butler do. I haven't seen another player win a game off a defensive position this year, last year, and the year before that in any game. So, yeah, it's a shame. I think the Celtics will take it in 6. I think it'll go to 6 games.
So we're going straight into it, are we? We straight into the Philly preview?
We'll go straight into the Philly preview.
Yeah. So you reckon Philly in 6? Boston in 6?
Yeah, I think Boston in 6. I just don't think Philly has the depth of roster at the moment to really shake it. I don't think. But hey, you never know. They could get hot, and Joel Embiid could just have a monster of a series. But it's more likely that it's tit for tat series more so than a one side dominant.
So
what are your thoughts from looking outside as a non-Philly or Celtics fan?
I like the Celtics, the way they play. They've been a team that we watched, obviously, with Baines over the last couple of years. Pretty solid outfit, well coached. The issue, though, now is I don't think they have a guy that can guard Embiid. And if Embiid has any kind of crazy, first couple of games in this series, it's on, basically. Like, if Embiid has 2 really good games to start the series, he looks like he's unplayable against this Boston team, even though they're well coached. I think that's a real dark horse in this series, depending on what happens. I think Simmons is a huge blow, obviously, defensively. Offensively, I feel like he hasn't been that good in the last couple of years against the Celtics. Like, the Celtics find a way to just go, we know how to coach you into this spot, and we neutralize you. But Embiid's been a little bit of a dark horse, but obviously Embiid's had a couple of injury scares coming into this Bubbles playoff series. I don't know. I look at that and just go, man, Embiid's just got to go, have a Super Saiyan series, basically, just go off. Yeah. And they're going to throw Cantor at him, Daniel Tice.
Taco for, mate. Throw the taco at him.
Yeah, if the taco might come out and have to defend him, but that's going to be a huge dark horse. What is he averaged in the bubble? I think 30 points a game or something.
Yeah,
30 plus
20. Yeah, 27. I think 27. I think the last couple of games he had a slower because he didn't play many minutes. But yeah, I think on the games where he played like a full game, it was above 30. So getting to the line a fair bit, playing well. Again, he's just one injury away from. But you know what? The last couple of games, man, I liked Kylo Quinn. Kylo Quinn played really well.
I got it.
Facilitated the ball well.
Did you hear him in those games just going, I got it, it's mine, I got it. Like, every possession was like, shut up, man, Jesus. But yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. I think Norville Pell is he's just G League quality. I think that was a big mistake releasing Jonah for him. I don't think the quality's there. I think Jonah had better fit in this team as an Aussie, being able to stretch the floor and, hunt the block as well. Whereas Pell can't shoot. It's just like, what is the point? You've got another guy that just takes up space in the paint and can't shoot. I don't know what I don't know what the coaching system does. I think if it's a first round exit for Philly, I think it's an exit for Brett Brown. I think it's an exit for Elton Brand. And I think it's just get a whole bunch of new people in and try and make this pairing work once more. Go for one more season with a new coach, new GM, build that team, get some better players in, maybe offload Horford, see if you can't get a shooter out of it, and then go for it next year. But, whatever next year looks like, really, we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen post-bubble.
It's an interesting thought. I don't know if Elton Brand's done like enough. That's not really the right word, like the right way to describe it. Has he done enough? But like he hasn't been there really long enough to cement a position that means he's on the chopping block. Does that feel?
Yeah, I think that you built your team around Embiid and Simmons, and they went for this humongous length. And no team in the last 10 years has won on a big lineup. Really, you think about it, it's been Warriors, small fastball, even the Cavs, relatively small ball, smaller guards, bit of point forward, bit good shooters. Last year, the Raptors, you got Lowry and Van Fleet. Yeah, the small backcourt. Yeah, it hasn't been these like just behemoth like, oh, this guy's 6'7", let's stick him in at point guard, 6'10" point guard, 6'7" shooting guard, and then all the way up to like a 7'1" center. You watch those games, and when it's a big lineup, there's just no space on the floor, is there? There's absolutely zero space. There's Tobias Harris driving into nowhere and trying to put up a shot in front of three guys trying to block him, and sometimes it gets pulled off, and some nights it doesn't. They don't play the pick and roll at all. There is absolutely zero pick and roll in that team. And I think that's where, if you've got a length team, man, play the pick and roll. Play the pick and roll games. It's something that Ingles and Gobert do very well. Not segue, but you watch them play a pick and roll, guys that, potentially can't shoot. But, man, that is some snappy pick and roll. And it's almost a guaranteed bucket every time. You got a 7-1 center. Why aren't you playing more pick and roll? Why isn't there more that 1-5 pick and roll, 2-5 pick and roll, getting Embiid low in the block to set the screen for Harris to come around? Like, there's nothing. It's just like drive, shoot, drive, kick out.
It's Will Weaver-esque, isn't it?
It is, man. You can just see that whole Australian coach / NBA style play where it's just drive and kick. No one operates in the mid-range. Let's get no mid-range scorers. Let's just get 3-point shooters, and let's just be able to jack the paint. And it's kind of like it's not even a Popovich style play, but it's just this weird play style where they kind of have gone all in on the fact that the lowest percentage shot is the mid-range shot. So let's just not bother with it at all.
So who can shoot mid-range in that team, really? Richardson can operate kind of. Tybal.
Yeah. No, I would say just Harris and Richardson, really.
And then, I don't know, Harris is not a guy where I feel like I'm just like, get in the mid-range, we need a bucket. Like, I look at Harris and I'm just like, I don't know what the way we can get you a bucket.
Yeah, it's very much the kind of that, like, all right, let's move ISO one-on-one, use a little bit of length and size and try and get around the guard. But that's really not the Philly team. Philly's kind of like that fast break transition team, and Harris kind of gets left behind in that fast play. Tybal's good. I've heard that they're going to potentially start Tybal at the 2-guard spot in this series over Richardson, as just someone to lock down Brown or Smart or Hayward.
Kemba.
I think Shake.
Kemba. Yeah, Shake's gonna have to play on Kemba.
Yeah, I mean that's Shake's 6'5".
How's his defense been?
Acceptable.
Yeah,
it's not bad. Harris is definitely the weakest defender in that team by a country mile. Yeah, it's acceptable. Harris is not a great, and he's 6'9", playing small forward. It's just like get him at power forward. Get a smaller. You see when Neto comes on the floor, so much space opens up, man. Because Neto can just play in and around everyone. And the other thing I've noticed with Philly team this year, there's absolutely zero off-ball movement. You watch this first game, you watch Steph, you watch Redick, you watch Shamet, you watch all these good shooters, Buddy Hield, Balenka, Bogdanovic. It's just this continuous running. You just watch Philly. It's just pass. Embiid in the post, pass. Harris drive in from the corner, cut drive. It's predictable, and it doesn't quite work.
So one of the bigger issues in this team, like you take Simmons out of this team, and then the backup guards, like Richardson is 6'5", but he looks so slight. Like I said that to you the other day, where
Yeah.
he looks like the smallest guy on the court by a lot. And yeah, it looks bizarre. Like when I was watching that game against the Rockets, you watch Richardson, and he just looks like so much smaller than everyone. Kind of puts into perspective how big that team is. And then Neto, like he's just not really good enough.
See, this is when he's been Neto is one of those guys that is better as a pure scorer than a facilitator, and I think that's where we've seen him in the last 2 games with Quinn. Is that man, he can shoot the 3 ball really well. He can get inside and finish really well. Where he gets laxed down is like anyone who's a 6-foot defender. Guys are going to. He's a really good matchup to Kemba. I think he can shoot. I think he's a guy that can get a bucket. And Philly haven't played him in the right situations this year. And if you go back to that first Boston series, TJ McConnell was the Boston's weak link, man. They had nothing on him. They couldn't catch him. Smart, Brown, Tatum, they couldn't catch him. And he got into areas. I mean, I think you play Neto a lot in this series. I don't think Neto matches up in other series quite well, but you play Neto more than Milton this series. I think, with Embiid and Harris, that gives you so much more operating space in the paint for a little guard to just keep running off ball and be a bit more crafty. But it'll be interesting to see how Brett Brown uses him as that backup point guard. Because Shake's been good, but he hasn't been that kind of standout good that we saw before the cessation of the COVID era basketball. And he hasn't kind of gotten to that same height in this series or in the pre-bubble games.
I'm just looking at their box scores. Embiid played 13 minutes against the Raptors. He was out against the Suns. Glenn Robinson got 20 minutes in that game. I still look at that Neto Burks, Korkmaz. They're just kind of not quite good enough to be that solid off the bench. Wow, like they really punched off the bench these guys. But at the same time, Neto kind of breaks the system too. Like, if you want Embiid on the floor with somebody in that team, I mean, who's the best facilitator in that team for a guy like Embiid? Probably Neto, maybe Milton.
I'd say Neto, and then when you kind of flip that up, and then when Embiid's off the floor and Horford's potentially in that 5 spot, get Burks in, because Burks is a walking bucket. Like, let him just take the ball and shoot. I think Burks matches up really well with the second rotation, and then you can get more guys in like Glenn Robinson, and you can get Harris in that scoring mode. But Burks has been a solid 16 to 20 points a night when they've been able to really use him well in backup minutes and against a backup unit. Same as Korkmaz, like he's shot the ball well. Where they're really missing is that Simmons, just to facilitate that second unit, speed that ball up as soon as Embiid's off the floor, just speed that ball up, and we just haven't seen that, and we're going to miss that in this series. But I think Neto is the key in that Kemba Walker matchup, and I think that Embiid is that key in that total matchup. If Embiid can have a man of the match play 3 games out of that series, I think Philly can take it. But unless he's scoring 35 points a night, I don't think Philly can take it.
I think is it enough? I don't know if it's enough. I think if he has a couple of monster games to start the series and puts a marker down and they win both of those games, it's going to be a massive momentum builder. Like I'm not sure if Boston have the capability to kind of turn that around.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Philly also have this issue where they'll just lose games, and where you're just like scratching your head going, how did they lose that game? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. They've had a few of those games in the bubble and then obviously during the season.
Yeah, a couple of games of the bubble, though, have really been just, we don't give a fuck. Like, we just don't care. Yeah. And I think that the other thing we've got to think of is that you've taken the crowd out of 2 of the biggest home crowd advantage teams in the league. Like, you got to think about that. The Celtics and Philly have some of the best home records in the league out of any teams. Better than the Lakers, better than the Warriors, even at their peak, just strongholds. And you take the crowds away from them, and it's going to be weird, especially in the playoffs.
It's very, very interesting. So you reckon Boston in 6?
Boston in 6. I think if Embiid has a couple of good games to start, Philly in 7.
Are you gonna predict Boston in 6?
Yeah, I'm going to predict Boston in 6.
I'm gonna go Philly in 7. I think Philly might win. I got this weird feeling of just Philly come out and prove everyone wrong.
I want to see it, man. I'd love to see it.
Because there's that Simmons Embiid dynamic that always has been like a little bit kind of weird. Does it feel like that to you? Like as an outsider, I look at that little dynamic and I'm just like, yeah, it's still a bit weird. Like, you know, Are you the star? Am I the star? Do I fit this team? Do you fit this team? Type thing. Now Embiid really has no excuse. It's just like we're gonna have to see a monster series from Embiid, and he's got 7 games to do that. So if you want to, you know, if he wants to rather define his career, he's got those 7 games. It's like throw a marker down and really establish yourself. And I can see him having like a monster series against this Celtics team where they don't really have the bigs. So I'll go Philly in 7. But yeah, tomorrow morning, 8:30. I'll be pumped.
8:30.
I'll have it on. It's good timing for me. Sit there, have it on while I'm working at work, working hard, hardly working.
Should we move on to the Jazz?
Yeah,
Jazz preview.
The Jazz, just stink in the bubble, man. Just bubbles of stinky brown matter.
This is the best matchup the Jazz could have actually hoped for in this entire series, I think, is Denver. I think that this is the only matchup where they get out of the second round for me. I think that Gobert matches up better with Jokic. Jokic hasn't shot the ball awfully well this season, has been operating more in the kind of low post facilitation. They can have off shooting nights. The Jazz can, play a bit better. But again, missing Bogdanovic, missing Conley now, no bench depth. It's hard to see the Jazz.
Come on,
really...
Clarkson, man. Come on. Clarkson off the bench.
Clarkson is just Alec Burks version 2.
Yeah, it is.
They're the same player. They might as well be the same player. They're just scorers in the backup unit. Absolutely zero defense.
Yeah, and I'm less enamored to those kinds of players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're good, they're effective, and every team needs them. But like I hate that. Like Burks just comes off the bench and just takes the ball and scores. Yay! Like I don't like those players.
It's like Dion Waiters. It's just like you can. It's just a 1-on-1, but it's not team basketball. It's not really good. It's dribble the ball up. Oh, pull up mid range. Oh, pull up from the 3. Yep, good. Yeah, great. Yep, everyone's got 15 points. Yep, and now fucking, Denver's going on a run because no one can defend. And, if Jokic can shoot threes, Gobert's pretty much dead in that series. And Ingles
let's talk about that matchup, Gobert versus Jokic. Yet another kind of, here's a center in Jokic who can do 4 things pretty well, one of them out spectacularly. And then here's another center who can do probably 3 things well, and one of them, probably 2 things really well and one spectacularly. Like, again, just another here is what the center's supposed to be, and here is what Rudy Gobert is. As much as we've ragged on him heaps over the last couple of episodes, I still am just like, come on, Rudy, just come out and have a barbecue chicken series where he just takes the bull by the horns and has a mad series. But I can't see him staying with Jokic because a couple of times this season, they just bring Jokic out, and Jokic is just like, sweet, I'll just come out. I got enough room to play make or shoot. Sweet. And it's kind of kryptonite.
That's it. He's a block hunter. He plays well in matchups against centers, traditional centers. This isn't a traditional center. Mate, Bol can bloody shoot and stretch the floor. So...
yeah, we'll get to the role players, but yeah, this Gobert Jokic thing is gonna be I think it's gonna be interesting to watch still. Like I'm looking at this series going, I want to see, because Rudy loves, he tries to come out and guard. Like Rudy's not a guy who will just be like, I can't do it, boys, so I'm not even gonna come out from the paint at all. Like he's a guy that I'm gonna try, I'm gonna have a crack at it, and then teams kind of exploit that. They get in their spaces where he comes out. And a guy like Jokic, like usually guys that can't pass that, or big men that can't pass that well, what they have to do is switch him onto a guard, and then the guard rinses him. But in this case, Jokic can pass and play make really well. I'll be interested to see how like he gets in that space and exploits it because he's got another couple of tools, like you're saying, Bol, and Michael Porter Jr. has been just so good to watch, man. Like I'd said to you on the text chain, like, man, how good is he to watch? Fuck, just
phenomenal. I'm pretty sure there was a Bulldoge somewhere way back, just like watch out for this dude.
Because you called him Michael Porter Jr. I remember that.
Michael Porter Jr. That's right.
Michael Porter Jr. It was great. So I'll have to dig that up and just see if there's a Bulldoge and clip that and post it out because that was a good prediction. Man, he is just so good. Like Jason Tatum Brown level. Like, wow, how good is this to watch?
Yeah, just phenomenal. Big guy. Shoot the ball, play in the mid range, could finish around the rim, defends pretty well. Yeah, man, they picked themselves. Look, the key matchup for me this is two key matchups. One is Gobert Jokic. The other one is Mitchell Murray. Murray hasn't been particularly healthy. Mitchell can get really streaky hot, and he has become a little bit smarter with trying to finish through traffic. He just doesn't have the players around him, man. That's the problem with the Jazz. They've just kind of gone all out and are so hamstrung and salary capped in guys that just get injured that without Bogdanovic and without Conley, it's Denver in 5. I think the Jazz will pull out one, but I think it's Denver in 5. This was the series that they could have won, but I just don't think that without Conley and, with the depth of lineup, I think they'll pull one game out of this series. But yeah, for me, Denver in 5.
So does Mike Conley, birth of son, out indefinitely. Wow. Leaves the bubble.
Yeah. So he's 12 days, so it's pretty much series out.
He's out of that series. Does that unlock Donovan Mitchell playing 42 minutes a game and unlock something in the Jazz, do you reckon?
It unlocks Mitchell playing 42 minutes a game, but it's unsustainable maybe for the first round. But, going 7 games at 42 minutes a game, I just don't think it's going to happen. And, unless they're going to pull out some young guy who's just going to have a blinder of a series, and I haven't seen that in the Jazz's depth, then I think it's GG and exit the bubble.
A Twitch term, GG, no re. So in that overtime game the other night, that was a crazy game the other day, I should say. Mitchell played 47 minutes, 35 points, 12 of 33. It's a lot of shots. And then Mike Conley had 8 of 19, Rudy Gobert 9 of 16. Clarkson off the bench with 6 of 14. Niang has been a little... Tony Bradley, pretty ordinary. But then you look at the rest of that team and it's a mess. You look at Mai Oni, Jarrell Brantley, Rajon Tucker, and then Ed Davis, I think, is still carrying it, like nursing a bit of an injury as well. And their form in the bubble has been atrocious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just... Oh, man, I don't even know what to pick for that.
It's Denver, but it's how many games are the Jazz going to take?
I want the Jazz to win. Just
so do I. Yeah, Denver's not my favorite team, but you want the Jazz to win just out of.
That was actually one thing I was going to talk about before. Was like this bubble. This extended period where we didn't have the NBA has kind of been like a palate cleanser. Just all the things you hate about teams just kind of disappeared until you see them again. And like you don't have to listen to Denver's announcers, so you're sitting there going, "Oh, I like this team. Like this is a decent team." But then as soon as like I went back and watched some old clips and their announcers, I was just like, "Oh yeah, I remember why this team annoyed me," and I had like just a boiling hate for
Houston.
them.
Houston are so bad. Philly, why is this Philly team 50 wins? It's just like, oh.
That was hilarious. In a blowout, they were just going on and on about, this team sucks. Why is this team shooting? How are they just pulling up and shooting these threes? That was when Jonah Bolden hit a bunch of threes as well. I don't know, man. Denver in 6. I don't know if Denver have the playoff, like that playoff stomp ability that will stomp out a team. Coaching-wise, Malone versus Quinn Snyder. I was going to say Zach Schneider, but it's obviously not Zach Schneider. But I don't know. They're pretty equally matched coaches.
Yeah, but it's what you've got to coach. And
True.
I think the depth of Nuggets goes far, far beyond.
And the talent, I think, too. We're going to see a lot of Ingles. We should talk about Ingles. He has been a bit
Heating up. I'm going to say
ordinary.
heating up.
But still a bit ordinary where you're just like, ooh, Joe. Like, oof.
Yeah.
Like that time off really hit him. Feels like that time off hit him, man.
Yeah, it's he's not the biggest or best athlete at the best of times, and I think sometimes an extended period of time off where he couldn't train, he didn't have a board, it's affected him a little bit. And they haven't had a good stretch of 15, 20 games to get into the finals. Like, it's not like he's coming off an injury and, okay, I've got a good stretch. It's kind of 8 games and right, we're in it now. I think these are probably the 2 teams that are least affected by crowds. The Jazz aren't particularly strong at home. Denver aren't any stronger at home as they are away.
Both have pretty good crowds though.
Yeah, good. They have good crowds, but they're not like home fortress kind of. Well, they haven't been for a number of years. I just don't think that Quinn Snyder has the ammunition to take this series.
It's going to take a huge, crazy Donovan Mitchell.
It's going to take 50-point nights from Donovan Mitchell, 3 out of 50. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
And Joe Ingles averaging, 18 to 20 points a game. Rudy. I don't know if Rudy can have a series where you're just like, Rudy, fucking yes. I apologize for everything. It just feels like this series is going to be another one where it's just like, really? Do we want to go into next season having Rudy as our, max center? I'm not 100% sure. But obviously that starts tomorrow morning, 3 a.m.
3:30, yep.
Yeah, it's a little early for me, so.
Highlights it is.
Yeah, highlights. Shout out MLG highlights. Doing the Lord's work. And then anything else on that series? Anything else on either series?
No, I think we should move to the wider NBA playoffs. We'll start off on West Coast and then move to the East Coast. I think the West Coast is more interesting. West Conference playoffs are more interesting. I think there's more unknowns. The only guarantee for me is that no Westbrook in that series. I think OKC are favorites to beat Houston, which is so good. So good.
Yeah. So I'll just read out what the final seedings were. So it's a 1-8 Lakers, Portland, and then it's a 4-5 Rockets, OKC on that side of the draw, and then it's obviously 3-6 Jazz, Nuggets, and then 2-7 Clippers, Dallas. So the sides of the draw is interesting that the Lakers are going to play, or for example, if the Lakers beat Portland, the Lakers are going to play the winner of these 2 teams, the Rockets, OKC, in the second round. I would have preferred if the Dallas was on one of those sides. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been a more interesting matchup against that Lakers in that second round. But this Houston OKC team, I don't know if Houston still have that weird factor where it's just weird to watch. It's bizarre basketball, and I don't know if the gimmick has really sunk in enough to make you just be able to predict this series. Like, you can't look at this series and go, you know what they're going to do? They're going to play solid. They're going to do this. They're going to beat this team like that. It's just like, if they get hot, they'll probably win. If they're not hot, they'll probably lose.
Exactly. It's how much they can get hot. Really, it's if they can all stay healthy. Besides Westbrook, obviously being out, if they're all healthy, if they don't go down for a number of games, and if they get hot, Houston will take a couple of games. But I think the series as a whole, there's no matchup for Steven Adams. There's no real matchup for Gallinari. I think Chris Paul is crafty enough to really piss off his old team.
That's going to be a huge factor. I think if he comes in with a chip on his shoulder, plays hard. I don't know. I don't feel like he's going to play like that though.
I don't know, man. Don't put it past him. Yeah, I do. I feel like he's got something to prove. I think like the experiment, they wanted the max. They gave him the max and they shipped him off for Westbrook. I think he's got something to prove. This team was 0.2% chance, Vegas odds of making the playoffs. And then they went on to, so it's just, they've already exceeded expectations exponentially. I think they can take one round more, and I think that they can take the Rockets. I'm going to say taking the Rockets in 6. I still think Houston will pull out 2 jammy games where they're just shooting lights out.
It'll be how OKC reacts to those runs. Like they're really Warriors like runs where it's just like, oh, it's 7 points, guys. Ooh, suddenly it's 18 points. Ooh, it's a blowout. Like that's the end. And that was how they were beating teams the Warriors were beating teams in that dynasty was just breaking their hearts, and it's just like, can you score? Can you like withstand 17 points in 3 minutes? Suddenly, a game is wide open. I like OKC's chances in holding that off. I think they're quite well equipped across the floor to kind of slow them down. Like Chris Paul is going to have to slow the game down anyway because he's going to be a little bit wary of lasting out those 7 games in a series. Like he's not going to just like go hell for leather, I don't think, after he had that injury last year, the year before.
Yeah.
But I like OKC's all-round depth. They're lacking maybe a little bit of experience. Is Chris Paul going to be able to make up for the entire, roster's inexperience? Adams is the other guy I think that's a playoff. Gallinari hasn't really had that much playoff depth experience. Schroeder hasn't really. Looking at the rest of their team, there really isn't anyone else there where you're just like...
SGA's been a good rookie. A good sophomore, I should say. He's been played well. Yeah, there's not anyone that's been, really had a great deep playoff experience. The Moose, Mike Muscala.
Mike Muscala. Shit. Nolan's Noel's there as well. I didn't even realize. Yeah, man.
They've got a good team. Like it's not a bunch of harpies. I think they're going to take it to this Houston team, and I think Harden and Tucker and will get hot one game, and that'll be that, and then the next game it'll be 0. It'll be a blowout. But you could see in that game against Philly is just Embiid just feasted, just had his way with.
Destroyed him.
And Adams is just going to feast as well. Adams is a crafty basket player.
I don't know if he has the power, the overall power. Like he has the craft and the skill and gets himself into nice positions, but I don't know if he has like that absolute power that Embiid has to exploit.
I think he does. I just don't think he has the attitude. He's just such a nice guy.
Yeah, true.
He's just he's not a killer. He's not he'd be so dangerous if he was just an asshole and just wanted to kill everyone. He's a big dude. Collins. Yeah.
But his matchup here, he's going to have to do a lot. I'm just looking at the rest of their centers. Muscala and Noel is going to catch a few lobs, I think, in this game. The Houston team, I don't know how they're going to react to that physical punch. Have you seen anything from them really this season where teams have kind of punched them in the mouth and we've had to see a reaction from them, and the reaction was, made you just go, oh, this Houston team's got guts. Without Westbrook, I kind of look at that team and just go, if you take a couple of shots in the mouth, like you guys are going home basically crying to mum.
The Mike D'Antoni era will end very swiftly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've got another couple of seasons in them. What about Harden? Let's just quickly talk about the Rockets just quickly. Harden, does he look like he doesn't care in the bubble at the moment? He's looking home. He looks homeless too. Like that hair, man. Like it's real.
It's like a really bad African American Chairman Mao haircut. He's kind of receding and then just like slicking it. It's terrible. It's the Kimbo Slice basketball.
That's it. Perfect. Yeah, it's real like late Kimbo, man. Late era Kimbo. It's like he needs someone to just go over the top of it with a a length cut, like just one length on your hair. And it's like it's all over the place. So I don't know. It's a little bit of a window into his psyche. I feel like the James Harden doesn't really want to be there type feeling. Do you get that feeling from him?
I get the feeling that he doesn't believe he can win this championship. I don't think this small ball. I think they went all in small ball and they went, oh shit, this isn't going to work. We're just not going to be able to beat the Lakers. They just don't have the defensive prowess. And when the Warriors dynasty went small ball, they had 6'8" guys that could defend centers. They don't have any defenders. I mean, Covington's been okay, hasn't shot the ball well at all.
But he's actually been quite good. Like watching him has been like, yeah, Rocco. I like Rocco.
Yeah, no, so do I. I was pissed off that they broke up that Philly team. I think that Philly team was going somewhere, much more than the just disgusting behemoth it is now.
He's actually been quite a little bit of a glue guy for him.
Glue guy, good defensively. The shots haven't been falling, but he's only one game away from that potential. But he's not a catch and shoot kind of guy. He's got to have a bit of a wind up.
Yeah, walk in. He loves to walk into him.
So what do you reckon? What are you picking for games wise?
Tough, man. Tucker and Eric Gordon are going to have to play well for him. I feel like it goes 7. 7 games. Yeah, I feel like OKC come out and punch him in the mouth. Then Houston respond with a couple of fluky games. Then the series kind of simmers down into, a win here, a win there, and then goes 7. And then the last game's like a shootout. I don't feel like Houston's going to come out and make it a 5-game 4-1, or I don't feel like OKC is going to make it a 4-2 or a 4. Like I can only see OKC winning in 7.
Yeah, I'm going to say OKC in 6. I think the Rockets have 2 fluky games in them.
Watch them the Rockets just sweep. It's just like, God damn it.
All right, let's move on to the Lakers. I think the Lakers obviously taking the number 1 seed in the West. Bit of a Mamba Memorial year. They're going to wear the black jerseys for the finals.
Yep.
I think they take Portland in 5. I think they just pull it out, and I just think that Portland play a couple extra games. I think the Lakers have had smart rest. LeBron hasn't played all the time. Davis hasn't played. They've gotten their guys down. Waiters has had a couple. I think that Rondo is back in the bubble. I believe he's coming back. Yeah, I think the Lakers do it in 5.
Just wondering if there isn't something going on in the background there. Like, I don't know. It just feels a little kind of LeBron-ish. That little LeBron curse is descending a little bit, like at the end of that last couple of games in the bubble.
Yeah, I just don't think they've played their best. I think that they haven't needed to play their best. They've sewn up the first seed. They've got the 8th. Why do you need to go hard? I think they were protecting their bodies. I think the rule stops to be pulled out now. Even if Lillard goes absolutely hell for leather and scores 60 points, the length, the AD factor, the LeBron factor. This is probably the last year we're going to call it the LeBron factor as well. I think he's still got a bit of factor this year. Definitely the AD factor. Yeah, I think, the Lakers in 5 for me.
I like the way he's LeBron's kind of deferred. Like he's just let it slide for AD. You know what I mean? He hasn't just been like, fucking, I'm going to take over. Like, no, AD, you do these things. Like, he's kind of just been like, yeah, you do your thing, AD.
He's just, 10.2 assists per game. He's averaged. He's just a facilitator now that can score a few buckets, and, he's defending a bit better. He seems like his body's, that time off has done his body well, and he's in for a deep series run. And I think they will. I think they will go deep. I think they'll go Western Conference final. I don't particularly see another team
to the finals. To be honest, just has that feeling of just like they're going to get massaged to the finals. Although I don't really believe in that, but it just feels like Lakers are going to get all the way to the finals just because it's LeBron's last chance. The Kobe stuff as well. It has that feeling of just like they're going to do it. Plus, they've been quite good, and they kind of probably deserve it.
They probably deserve to at least get the conference finals, but I just don't think that there's any team with the depth of roster that can take it to them, really.
Especially who can defend AD out of, the Rockets. He's going to feast against the Rockets. And then, Nuggets, Clippers, or Jazz. He's, already shown that he can feast against all of those guys. And then the Clippers.
Probably the Mavs. Probably Kristaps is the only one that can kind of take him 7-3 against 7-1. Both perimeter players, both can shoot. The matchup that AD has always struggled with is Joel Embiid. Always struggled. You watch those games year after year. AD has always been absolutely trounced by Embiid. He just gets in his head. So that's an interesting matchup. But I haven't seen any other matchup really, get into his psyche like that. Even Kristaps. But it'll be interesting to see that game if it does happen. I think they're on the different sides of the.
They are on the opposite side, so they could only be in the conference final.
All right,
so let's look at Clippers Dallas really quickly. Clippers have been a little bit, awful, weird.
Yeah, weird. I think Dallas is still too young.
Yeah,
still too inexperienced. Too early. I think the Kawhi and Paul George factor will get them through this round. I think it will be interesting. I think it'll be a 6 or 7 game series. It'll be a deep run series. I think that,
Grueling.
It will be grueling because I think if Kawhi has an off night or George has an off night, then Dallas can capitalize, but that's going to be few and far between. I just think that they've just got the better playoff experience. Dallas is still young, man. Dallas is 3 years away from a championship, and they're building well. And that's the way they should go along the lines: is don't overcommit, try and get there, but don't have the expectations like they're kind of Philly 2 years ago for me. That's where they're at, and don't blow it up. I think they've got the right call. They've got some good shooters. Probably just lacking a little bit in the defensive area. They're number 1 in scoring, but number 29 in defensive ratings. So it's kind of like you got to get better at defending, really, or you got to get better defensive players, get some length in there, or some guys that pride themselves on some defense. But it could be a bit of a scoreathon in this series, I think.
And then if you look at Dallas's defense, they lack that mid range. Like their ability to guard those mid-range guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, look, Kawhi and Paul George, 2 just devastating kind of in-out, mid-range and 3 type scorers. Like, good luck type of thing. On top of the fact that they're inexperienced and they're probably a couple of seasons away from really cementing. But as well as, like, I don't know if Luka has that, like, ultimate alpha 2 mentality where it's like, I don't care that, we're underdogs here. Like, I feel like he's surveying this situation. He doesn't have to play at 110% in this series to prove something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like that's his attitude.
I don't think it's his attitude, and I think it's not the expectations, man. It's his second year in basketball.
It'll still be interesting to see how he plays, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good series. I'm going to watch this series. I think this is going to be a good series. The West Coast for me is far more fascinating than the East Coast. Like, who really gives a shit about the Bucks playing Orlando or the Raptors playing the Nets? Like, that's just who gives a complete F.
I think we'll torch those 2 off the list then. Sweet, let's go on to Pacers Heat. Keep going.
We'll torch them off in. We'll give our predictions. But I think this is going to go to the Clippers in 6. This
Clippers
is my
in 6.
thing.
Yeah, I think 5 or 6. I think like Dallas just don't have enough. Like, they just don't have enough, and the experience to hold off a team like the Clippers. If they were maybe a 5th seed holding off a Rockets or something like that, or the Jazz maybe or something like that. Like, yeah, I could see that. But this Clippers team, like a 7-2 series, is just they're not gonna overcome that. I don't think so. Yeah, Clippers 5.
Yeah,
but
Clippers
still
6.
interesting series. So that's 4 like really interesting watchable series.
Yeah, completely.
So over to the East, the 1-8 being the Bucks Magic.
Bucks in 4?
5?
No, Magic don't take a game off them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm down with that.
Magic don't take. Raptors Nets. I think the Nets will pull out a sneaky one. I think one game it'll be a wake-up call for the Raptors. I think the Nets will just pull a sneaky one. I just have a feeling there's going to be a sneaky one in there. The Raptors in 5.
Yeah, 5. I'm happy with 5. I can just see the Raptors sweeping also. I don't know. The Nets were a little bit plucky like the last few games.
Levert was playing well. Yeah, Harris was playing well.
They found something where you just went, interesting. This is an interesting team. I don't mind watching this team. And then they choked that game. Who do they play against? I think it was against Houston.
Yeah.
Was it? No, let me find out.
No. That was.
It was awful. Whatever. That just really, really bad last shot. Nets. Portland. It was just a garbage. Like, they had that game on toast, man. And then Portland coming back with their crazy comeback. And then at the end, like, they went to this Levert. He held the ball for 15 seconds, drove, and then dribbled back out for like an 18-foot jumper, like just inside the 3-point line. And I'm like, there was nobody in the paint for like the last 7 seconds of that play. Nurkic would have had to rotate it over off of Allen. All you needed to do was go by McCollum, and you would have had like either a dump off at the rim for a slam, or you would have been able to finish over Nurkic. Like, that's the kind of thing where you're just like, terrible team.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I don't even know
that's
what
harsh. But it's the type of thing where you're just like, that's why you're the 7th seed, man.
Well, that's why the East is weak, and there's only really 2 good matchups in the East, and that's I like the Pacers Miami matchup.
Both those teams aren't bad, and Pacers ended up finishing 4th. Like let's not discount that as a pretty good season for the Pacers.
Pretty good season for the Pacers. They've got a good team, man. No Sabonis though, which is going to be.
Is he injured?
I think. Yeah, he's got plantar fasciitis.
That's no good.
So that's going to be an issue for them going forward if they get out of this Miami series. But yeah, look, Miami, a lot of young guys. I think Butler does hold a team well together quite well.
It's still a bit of a weird team though, that Heat team.
A lot of shooters, man. It kind of works. A lot of shooters. Bam Adebayo having a most improved season. It's gonna be a nasty series. I know Butler and Warren absolutely hate each other. TJ Warren's playing lights out at the moment.
Yeah, he's been the MVP of the bubble. He's been ridiculous. I think he's shooting like 60% from 3 or something. It's crazy.
It's absurd. Yeah.
But if there's some animosity, yes, bring it. I want to see some spice.
Yeah, this is going to be a 7-game series, and I actually don't know who to pick. I just completely, don't know who to pick.
I feel like none of these series are going to have spice. Except this series, like it doesn't feel like
the Boston series will have spice.
Yeah, okay, and then
Marcus Smart will always run his mouth against Embiid, and it'll that'll have spice. But yeah, I mean the Bucks trouncing the Magic and the Raptors taking, it's just going to be a clinic as opposed to a series. But this series will have spice. I think all the West Coast series will have a bit of spice. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Heat playing this series because the Heat are one for the future, man. If they can get another superstar over there, such a good young core of players.
If they can kind of replace Haslam and Iguodala with equivalent style dudes, like, you know what I mean? Like the veteranship of those two, if they can, pick up maybe a 6-7 season experienced player that's as good that can replace those two guys, then they're going to be like a force over the next few years. Just looking at their roster: Haslam, Iguodala, Dragic, Butler, Leonard, Crowder, Olynyk, Solomon Hill, Derek Jones Jr., Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero. Like that's a lot of players where you're like, I can see all of those being either first off the bench or in the rotation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a deep lineup
deepest
when they can all
team,
shoot.
Do you reckon they're the deepest team?
Lakers is probably the deepest team. But one of them, probably the deepest team with rookies that you just like, okay, these guys can shoot. That's where the experience factors, I think, is going to play a problem with them going for a deep run in this Eastern Conference. I think that they, I think it'll just be a Bucks. It'll be a Bucks Celtics or Bucks Philly final. I think if Philly play the Raptors in the second round, I do think that that's a good matchup if they get out of that series. But it'll be an interesting one to see. We've got to get out of this first round first.
Yep, and that's pretty much it for our finals preview.
We're coming back halfway through the first round.
Yeah, we'll come back a few games in, I reckon. Maybe sort of end of this week.
End of this week, maybe 3 games
Friday.
in.
We still also got to do a Patty Mills
tribute,
the bubble tribute season. I guess we could do some other season reviews of season.
We could do that at the end. Yeah, we can do that at the end. We can splatter it over the series. Do some extra pods here and there. Put out some more content. But
yeah, now that we're on Twitch, I think we should do a little bit more here and there. Get
Sounds
that
good.
shit live going. So anyone who came along and watched, thanks again for watching us on Twitch. You'll find us on Twitch now going forward. And then I'll put these YouTube clips, up on YouTube over the next couple of days. And then the audio will go up ASAP for those listening on iTunes and Podcast Addict. Remember to like and subscribe and keep up the good work.
See ya.
I'm pumped. I'm pumped for this series, man. These finals.
Man.
I don't know. I get to watch them. It's going to be great. That's the best part, because last year was like I didn't get a chance to watch much of that, and that was like a real sort of like a moment of guess what? The NBA isn't what it used to be for you anymore. Plus, the Warriors losing. That had a big thing. But now I'm like, the NBA's back. I'm in. All right. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Take it easy.
See ya.